Let's bring in Florida congressional candidate and Army combat veteran Cory Mills. Cory, good morning to you. You know, the work has just begun to pick up the pieces after this storm. So where do things stand right now, and what is the most pressing issue that still needs to be addressed?
Well, I'll say this right now. The governor has done an amazing job, as has the CFO and State Fire Marshal, Jimmy Petronis, in getting necessary responses and getting over 42,000 linemen, who has restored over 1 million people's power so far. Over the last couple of days, I've been sitting here in my district. We delivered goods and supplies to over 200 residents who have been displaced in the Volusia County area yesterday. And just a few hours ago, I got home around midnight. We had utilized a very large, what we call a swamp buggy here in Florida to get out to residents who, had lost everything. And I'll tell you, one of the most remarkable stories, and this is what I love about, the people of Florida, is I actually visited with a mother and her husband who have a 10-month-old baby. And we had everything from baby wipes to food, to diapers, to formula, to water, cases of water, you name it. And I had opened up and said, get anything you need. Now, this is a family who had just lost everything. She had grabbed 3 different packs of baby wipes, some baby food. They grabbed some water and food for themselves. And she looked at me and I said, is that all you want? And she said, I want to save enough so that there's other people who can also be helped with these supplies. This is a family who had just lost everything. So there are people who are still displaced, who need places to stay, food, water, toiletries. I mean, this is absolute devastation for some of these communities, even here in my district on the West Coast. East Coast, excuse me.
Yeah, obviously we're seeing the pictures right now on our screen. The devastation that you're recounting, obviously echoed by those pictures. Just horrible. It means I want to switch gears to this. A longtime ally of Vladimir Putin is calling on Russia to use low-yield nuclear weapons against Ukraine, saying, quote, in my personal opinion, more drastic measures should be taken, right up to the declaration of martial law in the border areas and the use of low-yield nuclear weapons. Look, Cory, this nuke talk getting louder and louder by the day, it seems. Is Putin getting closer to using one?
Well, I'll say this right now. The rhetoric that's being utilized by Vladimir Putin is absolutely appalling. But we also have to back up for a moment and look at the fact that under the Biden and Obama administration in 2014, when Russia came across in Donetsk and Crimea, the Biden administration and the Obama administration had failed to levy the 1994 Budapest Memorandum as an international agreement that had been broken. This was an agreement that was signed by the Federation of Russia, UK, Northern Ireland, Ukraine, as well as the United States. When they failed to do so, that continued to escalate. And under, like you look at President Reagan, for example, during the Cold War, he actually would launch things that were covertly launched, not trying to be overt in our actual support to certain things that could thwart efforts within Russia. But even in doing so, Biden has continued to try and escalate things as well. What we need to understand is this. For Russia, if Vladimir Putin was to lose the Ukrainian war, this is not the end of Russia, but it would be the end of his presidency. It would be the end of his rule, as he has staked everything here. But we need to understand that the UN, NATO Security General, and Germany, as well as for others, need to be looking at negotiations for peace treaties. They need to be looking at things where the Russia, Iran, and China alignment is that China themselves may be the best one to mediate this type of rhetoric to be calmed down. America does not need to try and continue to ratchet up things to see a tactical nuclear weapon deployed or limited nuclear weapons to be utilized that could lead us into a nuclear war with a foreign government. We need to be looking at measures that actually de-escalate things. And I think that China, Germany, NATO's General Secretary, and others in the region who would be highly impacted by this would be the right ones to go forward and try and go ahead and de-escalate the situation at this time.
Well, at the same time, Vladimir Putin just annexed 4 areas of Ukraine, and no one is recognizing that as Russian land. Nice try. He also called for a very unpopular draft that has led hundreds of thousands of Russians to flee the area, and so the reserves that they do have are not experienced. So Vladimir Putin also finds himself in a position that he never really thought he would be in. So what happens next? To Todd's question, do you think that he is capable of using nuclear weapons?
Well, I think it's the old saying, you don't back a rat into the corner. I mean, we are literally putting him into the position of failure and embarrassment to where, his entire nation may go ahead and rule against him. So I think that we need to take that as threat is serious. I think that we need to also reinforce as an international community what would be the outcome if he did utilize a tactical nuclear strike, even in a limited measure. And I think, again, we need to start thinking about those who are closest to him, nations like China, who he is geopolitically aligned with, who could go and say that if you utilize this nuclear strike, we will support the West in its sanctions. We will support the West in pulling away any type of funding and support that you may have. I think that we need to find a way to actually allow Putin to back off of the button before he actually escalates that because of his fear of losing rule, losing power, losing face.
It's a good point. Cory Mills, thank you so much for joining us. And we're still thinking about everybody in Florida this morning.
Thank you so much. God bless.
You too.